Hi everyone, my name is Rajita. I'm lecturer in commerce and working at Government Degree College, Mortad. Topic is auditing. Now let's see the definition of auditing. An audit is an independent examination of financial information of any entity. So here in this audit, the financial information which is represented by the company is audited independently without any undue influence. The information is checked by auditor. So audit attempts to ensure that the books of accounts are properly maintained by concern as required by law. Whether the books are prepared by the company are under the standards of law or not is ensured by auditing. Here we have some objectives of audit. So mainly the major two types of objectives of audit is primary objectives and subsidiary or secondary objectives. So if we get into the primary objectives of an audit, so examining the system of internal check. So first of all they will check the internal check, and while they are writing the books, whether they are checking the information which they have written or not is observed in audit in the form of internal check. Then next, checking arithmetical accuracy of books of accounts, verifying posting and balancing. So here the arithmetical accuracy is also checked by calculating trial balance of the company and verifying the posting whether the entries are posted in a proper manner or not. So those will also be verified, and balancing the accounts and other financial statements is also done in the process of audit. And the next objective is verifying the authenticity and validity of transactions. So whatever the transactions written in the books, the authenticity, that means whether the transaction made by the company is true or not, or those are actually from the company or not, is verified in audit. And the next is checking the proper distinction between capital and revenue transactions. So whether they are maintaining the difference between the capital and revenue of the transactions or not is verified by audit process. And next is confirming the existence and value of assets and liabilities. And in the assets and liabilities are valued again, whether the company valued them or correct or not. So this will also checked in the process of audit. And next is verifying whether all the statutory requirements are fulfilled or not. So while writing the books, the company is fulfilling the statutory requirements or not is verified by audit. Is providing true and fairness of operating results presented by income statement and financial position presented by the balance sheet. So here the analysis will done of the financial situation of the company, which is represented by the books of the company. So here the next objective is secondary or subsidiary objectives. Here we have again types and objectives. One is detection and prevention of errors. So errors are detected and try to prevent them in the process of audit. So here again we have different types. Errors of principle. So these kind of errors are committed by the accountants when accountant doesn't have the knowledge about the accounting principle. So those errors called as errors of principle and errors of omission. These kind of errors occur when the accountant forget to record the transactions in the books, and errors of the commission. So these kind of errors occur when an amount is entered right in the correct account but the value is wrong. So if entered so entered entered side either credit or debit is correct, but the amount which they have written can be wrong. So this kind of error called as error of commission. And next is compensating errors. So one error can be compensating by writing an entry in the book. So to compensate error, so by writing another entry we can compensate the error which is occurred. And the next type in secondary objective is detection and prevention of fraud. So there can be a lot of frauds which can be knowingly committed by the company to avoid tax payments or to there are different frauds in company. Misappropriation of cash. The accountant or the persons who are maintaining account books can misuse the cash by writing wrong entries, excess expenses in the books, and this kind of fraud is can be found out in the process of auditing. And misappropriation of goods. So here with the goods, the company can also try to manipulate the outer world. So this can be found out by the process of auditing. And manipulation of accounts are falsification of accounts without any misappropriation, but they can they can do falsification of accounts. That means maybe company having losses, but they can show profits in the accounts while they are publishing it to the public. So this is also one of the fraud which can be detected and prevented. And undervaluation or overvaluation of stock. So if the company needs goodwill or if the company needs loans, they will overvaluate their stock. And if the company wants to reduce the investment or they want to make the profit, so they will undervaluate the stock. This is also frauds which can be committed by the company knowingly. So these are the types of audit, the objectives of audit. Topic is rights of auditor. So here we see the rights of auditor. So rights of auditor to access books of account and auditor of a company shall have a right of access at all the times to the books and accounts and vouchers of the company. That means he can access all the books which are written in the company or firm for the purpose of audit. So here the next right is right to obtain information and explanation under the section of 227 subsection 1 of Companies Act 2013. An auditor of a company is entitled to require from the officer of the company such information and explanation as he may think necessary for the performance of his duty as an auditor. So when an auditor entered into the company as to audit the books of the company, so he has the right to take the information which he requires for performing his duties, and as well as explanation for the transactions, for the aspects which the auditor need for the purpose of auditing. The next right is right to visit branch office and access to the branch accounts under the section of 228 subsection 2. The auditor has a right to visit the branch office if the company has branches. So nobody can stop him by visiting the branches, because he has a right under the section of 228 and subsection 2. So he can visit the branches and he can access the accounts which are written in the branches for the purpose of auditing in the company. And the next right is right to receive notice and attend the general meeting. So auditor has the right to receive notice when the general meeting going to conduct, because he has to give the information of audit which he has done on the accounts of the company. He has to give the information what he actually found in the accounts. Here, receiving all the notice and other communication relating to general meeting of a company, which any matter of the company is entitled to have, and he is entitled to attend any general meeting, and he is also entitled to be heard at any general meeting which is attended on the part of the business which concerns him as an auditor. So he has also right to attend meetings of any other general meetings of a company as auditor. And the next right is the right to make a representation. So here he has the right to receive a copy of special notice intent to remove him or proposing him to appoint any other person as auditor. So before removing him and before appointing him or before appointing another person in the place of the previous auditor, so he has all the rights to receive the information and notice for that information. And further, retiring auditors ought to be removed, has a right to make his representation in writing and request the same to be circulated among the members of the company. So auditor also has the right to give a representation when he is retiring from the company, and he can also ask the company to represent the same written request in the members of company, among the members of the company. And in case the same could not be circulated, the auditor may require that the presentation shall be read out at the general meeting. The auditor has also right to be heard at the general meeting. If the company fails to circulate the same written representation from the auditor, so he has a right to read the letter in the general meeting. And next right is remuneration of the auditor. So under section of 224 subsection 8, so where appointed by the board of directors. So when an auditor appointed by board of director, remuneration is also fixed by the board of directors. And in the second situation, when an auditor appointed by shareholders, so when the shareholders are appointing auditor, remuneration is decided by the shareholders in annual general meeting. If the auditor is appointed by central government, the remuneration fixed by the central government. If the appointed by Controller and Auditor General of India, the remuneration should be fixed by the in company general meeting. And next right is a right to have legal and technical advice. Auditor also has a right to have the legal and technical advice while he is doing audit in the company. Duties of an auditor. So duty as to inquiry. So his duty without prejudice to the rights given under 227(1), auditor must inquire into following matters: whether the loans and advances made by the company on the basis of security has been properly secured, and whether the terms on which they have been made are not prejudicial to the interest of the company or its matter. So his duty is to inquire about the loans and advances which are loans taken by the company, or and the advances which is given by the company or secured or not, and whether the transactions of the company which are represented by the books entire are not prejudicial to the interest of the company. So he has to inquire about the transactions which are recorded in the books are not manipulated, they are very true and very real transactions which are made by the company. And whether the company is an investment company or a banking company, where so many of assets of the company as consist shares, debentures and other securities has been sold at price less than it which they are purchased by the company. If the company investment company, if any shares are bought by the company, and if they are selling those securities for the same price or for the lesser price by which actually they bought them into the company. And the next duty is to whether loans and advances made by the company have been shown as deposits or not. So he has to check whether the loans and advances shown in the deposits or not. So next, whether personal expenses have been charged into revenue account. So he has to check whether the personal expenses charged into revenue or account. So he has to check whether it is not. And where it is stated in the books and papers of the company that the shares have been allotted for cash, whether the cash has actually been so received, whether the position as stated in the account books and the balance sheets are correct and regular and non-misleading. So he has to check all the details whether the allotted shares allotted for cash or not. So if the cash or received by the company or not, he has to check all the things to get the perfect picture of the company. And next, to report to members. So after completing his duty, he has to report to the members and to specify a few things in the report. So he has to specify the things which he observed in the process of audit. So next, to report inclusion in prospectus and to certify the statutory report. So after completion of audit, he has to give the report. And duties regarding to investigation. So he has to do the investigation, physical investigation when the company providing the information is correct or not. He can do the physical investigation also. To submit the report on the balance sheet and profit and loss account appended to the declaration of solvency at the time of voluntary of winding up. So when he submitting the balance sheet and profit and loss account, he should state whether the solvency possibility in the voluntary winding up. Liability of an auditor. So there are two types of liabilities, civil liabilities and criminal liabilities. So if we see, the civil liabilities are liability for negligence. If the auditor owes some duty towards the plaintiff and he does not discharge his duties with a responsible skill and care, resulting in a loss of faith if the auditor is guilty of negligence. So when he's doing auditing in the company, so he must be careful about all the things and duties, rights of the auditor. So if he is not aware or is not performing his duties and rights according to the law, so he will be liable for the things happened in the company, which can give loss to the company. And the next thing is liability for misfeasance. So if the auditor does not approach and perform his duties in the misfeasance, an auditor is liable to indemnity only if the following things are found against him. The auditor owed duty to the plaintiff. He failed to discharge his duties. Plaintiff suffered loss due to non-performance of duty by the auditor. So these are the situations where he is liable of misfeasance. And civil liability under Indian Companies Act. So under section 62, if an auditor who can also be the auditor of the company gives untrue statement as expert in the prospectus issued by the company, is liable to indemnity to each person who, believing the prospectus applied to purchase and shares or debentures, and who has suffered loss with the untrue statement. So if he is giving untrue statement, so which is also so published in the prospectus, so he will be liable for the situation, for the loss which is occurred by his untrue statement. And his civil liability under section 543 of Indian Companies Act. The court can compel an auditor indemnify the company an amount deemed fit by the court with regard to the being wound up if he is guilty of misoffense and breach of trust. So if he found a breach of trust and misoffense, so the company can give a penalty to be paid by the auditor to the company. And civil liability towards third party. So when civil liability towards a third party is not responsible for the negligence which is done by which is compelled by the auditor, and liability for fraud. An auditor is not liable to the third party for the negligence or misoffense, but he is guilty of fraud. He shall be held liable for the third party also. Type of liability is criminal liability. So criminal liability under Companies Act, violation of section 57 and not signing authenticating as per the act. So after completion of the process, he has to submit a report duly signed by the auditor. If he is refused, or if he is not signing on the report, so he will be liable on criminal act. If we and the next thing is for not rendering help to the inspector. So if anything found by the company or wrong by the auditor, if he is not cooperating with the inspector who came to investigate the situation, so he will be criminally liable under Companies Act. And fraud in books, if he find fraud and is not mentioning in the report, so he will be criminally liable. And filing a suit for a criminal action is also possible for false statement in a report, and for untrue statement in the prospectus, so he will be liable for criminal liability. And false evidence, if he gives false evidence, then he will be liable for criminal offense. And and for promoting a person to invest. So by giving understatement, if he is promoting a person to invest, it is also a criminal liability of an auditor under Companies Act.